Last week on the 1st of November 2012, we celebrated the 7th Africa Youth Day since the decision was taken by the African Union heads of state in Banjul in 2006. The celebration took place under this year's theme, which is Africa must deliver as one to empower African youth for sustainable development. And I think that theme speaks volumes and speaks for itself. Today, on the 8th of November 2012, is the 4th day of the Youth Week. The Youth Week is being celebrated for the first time across Commonwealth countries. This year's themes in the Commonwealth is connecting cultures. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this event symbolizes the significance and support for youth development by both the African Union and the Commonwealth. By celebrating this event today, South Africa, in collaboration with all member states present here today, also join hands with both the African Union and the Commonwealth in intensifying development of young people. Of significance to this gathering is the fact that as we accelerate the development of young people, there is a need to equally appreciate the efforts of all youth workers, women and men, young and old, because they are frontline providers of services to the youth. I salute the contributions you have all made and continue to make to this important sector of our society. I thank you very much. In Wendy Lesko's words, and I quote, "If you ever think you are too small as youth workers to be effective, you have never been in bed with a mosquito." Close quote. You know what, the mosquito, small as it is, it can make things go wrong, but you do things go right. Join me in applauding every effort, big or small, by youth workers, because investment in youth has become a necessity. This is more so as youth around the globe continue to experience challenges that threaten the development efforts. Such challenges include, but are not limited to, high unemployment, crime, substance abuse, obesity. It's a new one, this one, obesity. You should really think, I mean, look at South African young people and you can see they are not living a healthy lifestyle. Suicide, and then now that some are writing exams now, I think when the results comes out, you know what happens. HIV and AIDS. Those are the challenges that are facing the young people. It becomes even critical to invest in youth with a demographic pattern showing that young people between the ages of 15 and 35 are an increasing population group compared to children and adults. So young people are now increasing in a bigger way. In South Africa, the last 2011 census, which were published last week, revealed that young people between the ages of 15 and 35 constitute almost 50% of the population of South Africa. So half of our population is now young. We are 51 million, and it means therefore 25.5 million of those young people in South Africa are young. And when we talk of investment, then that's the figure must then guide us. Are we investing correctly? Are we investing appropriately? Or we are not doing it? Unlike in the world's developed countries such as the United States and Europe, where the population is aging, in less developed countries, particularly in the African continent, the reverse is true, because the age population structure is relatively young, and the continent is facing what they say is a phenomenal element that is cyclical in nature, because in the 1960s, if you remember, the Western world or the developed world experienced what they call the baby booms of the time. And then later it was Asia that faced that type of phenomena. That is why the population in Asia now, it's 1.2 billion in one country, it's 1.4 billion in another, and it's a huge population. And Africa has hit a record of 1 billion now. African's population is now moved to 1 billion. So it is happening now. In front of your eyes, watch, it's there, it's happening. So this is the phenomena, therefore, that it's here with us. For an example, in Malawi, approximately 49% of the population is under the age of 15. As just one classical example of a country. Under the age of 15, 49% of their population. So when we say invest in the young people, we really mean investment. So what were the advantages of the developed world? Obviously, when the baby booms happened in the 1960s, the developed world was fortunate and ready to invest in young people. They grew in stable families, so the family institution was at its best. They grew up in an environment which has a very good infrastructure. They were able to access fresh water, they were able to access sanitation, they were able to access electricity. When they were born, the critical 1,000 days in the existence of a human being when you get born, those programs of the health programs, they had them so that nothing goes wrong with that particular child on the first critical 1,000 days. Because they say a human being to be a better human being, if you take care of that from the day the person gets born, the 1,000 days of that life are very, very critical. So they had the health facilities and the health programs that could provide better food, nutritious elements, and so forth in that critical 1,000 days. You don't take care of that environment, then you are going to have problems later in the growing of that particular child. So 1,000 days are very, very critical. So the Western or developed countries had that part one. They also had access to good education. They had access to quality education. They had strong community institutions. We used to have them in the 60s and 70s, but most of them are now disappearing. The family life is broken down. We now talk of child-headed families now as a result of the scourge of HIV and AIDS. Those institutions are no longer as strong. The church is no longer as strong. The fear of making a sin, it's no more in South Africa. People just wake up, they rape old grannies, they rape young children. You then wonder what has gone wrong with human beings. What has happened to that fear that I fear to make a sin? People are no longer fearful of anything because the institutions that used to guide, provide that guidance, the youth clubs in the area, the church youth clubs that used to be strong and eloquent and so forth are no more. Most of them have collapsed. So institutions in communities, when you look at South African situation, are not there. And yet in the developed countries, they had those particular elements. Children had a soft ground to fall. If it happens that you don't make it, to drop out of school, they will find places where they could then go for rehabilitation and all sorts of things. And it used to be free, not the one that you pay for, because the one that you pay for is a professional rehabilitation. So we used to have those type of places, safe homes, and so forth. And for some of you who grew up in the environment, there was one school, they say Stout School. I don't know Stout, you know. When a child was a troubled child, they will send you to Stout School. And then that's where you will be fixed and then be brought back, you know, and then being a fixed individual. So all those institutions are no more. And yet the developed world, when this boom happened in the 1960s, they had those particular mechanisms and institutions. And unfortunately for us, we do not have today as Africa. Look at the African countries, one by one. When you look at whether all these things are in place, they are not. Therefore, we have a boon that is happening where the chances are that quite a number of these youngsters will grow without any investment going in their direction. And if that happens, it's going to be a cost to society. In the following manner, the children will not go to school, they will not be learned because the infrastructure is not there, the facilities are not there. They don't have strong parental guidance because parents are no more. In South Africa, we understand there's 9 million absentee fathers. a father who is not there to guide a child. Because we men father children, but we don't take care of them. We abandon, we run away, we don't even know sometimes. So now, without the support of the two parents, the investment of just guiding that particular child on a family environment will be lost. And the child may not even have the ability to go to school because not all facilities are available everywhere in our own countries and so forth. So it will take us an extra mile, an extraordinary effort, really, to make sure that this opportunity, which is what we call the human capital opportunity, because a people of a country should be an asset of that particular country. But they can only be an asset if we invest proper in them, prepare them for their future, and ensure therefore that indeed when they grow up as adults, they are responsible and they can contribute to the growth and the development of that particular country. So here's an opportunity for us then to invest in the young people, for them to be the asset of tomorrow. If you don't do so, they're going to be a liability. And once they are becoming a liability, it means state must spend more money on social grants, because they will grow up and becoming old, no skills, no education, no opportunities that they could be able to grab because they are not educated. And as they grow older, then they will apply for their social grants, and then your social grant budget will just balloon and balloon and balloon. Now, 25 million people that needs that particular opportunity now to be guided proper, to invest in them, so that by the time they grow adult, they can work for themselves and fend for themselves and save enough for the day when they get old. And if you don't do so, obviously, it's a doomed future for them. So I think that element of the population growth and the phenomena that is happening in Africa is something that the Commonwealth countries must really wake up to. The leadership of Africa must wake up also and respond by giving more resources and more investment without asking questions. Because we now want to turn these God-given human beings into an asset, so that the asset then can work for you as a country as you prosper for your growth and development. We should remember that young people hold the key to society's future. Their ambitions, goals, and aspirations for peace, security, development, and human rights are often in accordance with those of society as a whole. Therefore, nations can only prosper if there are dedicated efforts to invest in youth. Tulani, I hope I didn't disappoint you on that one. The youth bulge. However, despite the commitment by governments to address the ever-increasing challenges of young people, there's a need to explore an effective service delivery channel. The youth workers can close that gap, ensuring that services to the youth are prioritized. Bring back those institutions in the communities, rebuild those institutions, go out to the churches and say, a church cannot exist without a youth structure, and the church must invest in that youth structure. A community can exist without the youth clubs of all varieties, and even centers be created and developed where we build new houses, make sure that there's a hall, there's a recreational facilities, there are sports facilities, so that it could be easier for you to then guide as youth workers, guide and then ensure that those young people, are prepared, for their future in variety of forms. The upcoming conference on education and training of youth workers, which is planned to take place in South Africa from the 18th to the 20th of March 2013, has been approved by Cabinet yesterday. Last week, what happened is that I took the matter to the... Thank you. Last week, I took the matter to the Cabinet Committee, but Cabinet Committees only recommend to the Cabinet. And so sometimes when you take a matter is approved by the Cabinet Committee, it goes to the Cabinet, you are not sure whether it will be contested or not contested. Fortunately with this one, in the Cabinet Committees, there was no contest. And even yesterday at the Cabinet, there was not contest. It went through, and indeed, we are ready to host you next year, come the event. By having this conference, we'll be strengthening the capacity to deliver effective youth development services through recognizing youth work as a profession. I struggled to explain and then so that there's no contestation. And I did well by explaining so that at the end, when the president, I was asking, any questions? Do we approve the memo? And then everybody said, let it go. The issue was, what is youth profession? I explained it in two ways. One, we need to make it a career of choice. That as people go to school, they go for whatever academic choices, one of those academic choices should be a youth profession. That's one. The second one, obviously, it means that once that has been, then we need to have a body. Like the lawyers will have their own bodies, engineers will have their own bodies, and then so forth, so forth. The youth workers' body, that could then begin to look at standardizations, the standards that might prescribe, so that the people that goes into that environment are people who have gone through a particular test of some sort. Because you can't be a lawyer unless you serve your articles, and after serving articles, obviously you write certain board exams to be an advocate, and then so forth. So we might then have to have a professional board of that nature created, because nurses have it, doctors have it, so let's have it also for the youth. And after explaining that, there were no questions that were raised, so I was able to convince the cabinet that this is what a youth worker is, and then the youth practitioner elements will. If we have capable youth workers, we'll end up with young people who are guided proper in life. We'll produce policy makers who are well-informed and overall youth-friendly and youth-responsive services. We'll have young people who then also embrace their movement into business, and then so forth, so forth. Going to the theme of today's launch of reflecting on the journey towards professionalization, it is worth noting that even though youth work practice appears to be new, it is not a new phenomenon. Research illustrates that this practice dates as far as the 19th century. It came as a result of an increased rate of youth population as compared to other population groups and the complexity of the various challenges facing young people, such as unemployment, poverty, street youth, and many other challenges. So the developed nations had experienced it at that time. We're experiencing it more now today with the youth bulge that is taking place. Like now, at the time, youth work was practiced mostly in churches and local communities. I think I spoke on that one, where programs and projects were implemented to meet the needs of young people. Through this practice, young people acquired the cognitive, social, and emotional skills and abilities required to navigate them through the life's journey. As we are currently experiencing demographic dividend, it becomes important that we also revisit the work, what worked previously. Youth work practice previously managed to put young people in the center of development. It is relevant that today we are speaking again of using youth workers as vehicle through which services to the youth can be delivered, thus enabling us to focus on the youth. We also call upon development partners to support development initiatives by youth workers like they did in the past. I wish to acknowledge the commitment by the United Nations Population Fund Agency of contributing as a sponsor for the upcoming conference. I also wish to encourage all participants gathered here to also come on board and support this worthy cause. Talk more about it as we go around, evangelize it, make it popular. And I was asking here whether the media is in full house today or not. And I said to them that I doubt if the media will come, because we still have to go to them and educate them about the youth work and say what it is. Because they don't even know. When they saw the alert coming to them to say there's a conference on professionalism of the youth, what is that? And therefore, we say you need to do an extra mile to go and educate them. We did that exercise when the climate change conference was being hosted in South Africa. We realized that this time we convene a press conference, the media doesn't come. And until when the Deputy Minister then, Diana Pule in the presidency, then decided that, let me go to the media houses and say, who are your journalists who are reporting on climate change? There they are. Can we educate you? And they organize workshops for them. So we might also have to do that, Dr. Benis, that we organize workshops for the media houses They have young journalists there who are youth themselves, but they don't know much about youth programs and youth development. In South Africa, the journey towards professionalizing youth work has been long. This is despite prioritization of education and training of youth workers by the Commonwealth Youth Programme within its plan of action for youth empowerment, as well as efforts on our part of introducing qualifications in youth work. The collaboration between us and the Commonwealth Youth Programme of having the conference is an attempt to find a solution of having youth work recognized, because like Hen Raleigh said, and I quote, "Youth work is worthy to be recognized as a profession," close quote. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the upcoming conference will provide a platform for all practitioners, researchers, policymakers, government, and I understand there's a lot of youth directorates from various government departments here. They will also be part of you, academics and students who have a debate on the importance of professionalization of the youth work. The conference participants will also be able to share experiences, ideas, approaches, and strategies that can be utilized to accomplish the recognition of youth work as a profession globally. Ignoring the plight of young workers will have dire consequences for decades, because as frontline workers, these youth workers, they have influence on the direction which young people take, and the youth in turn also have influence on the direction which society takes. They are better prepared, the society will benefit later. I am inspired by the initiative taken by the Presidency, the Commonwealth Center for Africa, the University of South Africa, and the National Youth Development Agency of bringing together the international community in order to find solutions of addressing the plight of youth workers. As we approach the conference, I would like to appeal to you to inform relevant structures responsible for youth affairs and youth development in your countries about the significance of participating in the upcoming conference. If we can all participate, we'll be in a position to plan together and have common strategies of strengthening youth practice. I understand the DG, Director General from the Youth Affairs in Swaziland, is present amongst us. And when I speak of that, I also say, let's spread the message within everyone's country. And thank you very much for coming, Sen. Thank you. This can be done, let's do it, and I thank you.